Welcome back to the morning show. Now, Vytjie Mentor was yesterday reported to have left the witness stand at the Zondo Commission frustrated. That was after 2 days of cross-examination. It's been found that the former ANC MP's given testimony has 5 major discrepancies that have to do with the description of the Gupta's compound, her travel dates to China and subsequently Saxon World, as well as her initial meeting of Fana Hlongwane, a controversial businessman that's somehow linked to state capture. We're now joined by Canny Maphanga, who is a journalist with News 24. Thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you so much for having me, Clement.
So 2 hectic days for Vytjie Mentor. Let's just recap over the 2 days. What are some of the important things that came up?
The important thing that highlighted for me was the issue of records. And this came back up again yesterday when she, before we even started with the continuation of her testimony and the cross-examination, she wanted to clarify again the issue of SAA records and Home Affairs records. So she's insisting that there's something wrong with the records and that her version of events still stands.
Yeah.
So she's suggesting now that the Home Affairs records, it's possible that they now should look at another passport. Deputy Chief Justice Zondo is saying that if that was the case, Home Affairs would still be able to pick that up. Now the question is, could Home Affairs have tampered with that information? With SAA records as well, she's insisting that it was the Monday after the infamous Sunday evening call, the alleged call from Ms. Kaunda. So with SAA records as well, is she trying to say that that information might be false as well?
And I just want to clarify to our viewers, when we talk about the SAA records, these are records that contradict that she flew between September and October from Cape Town to Parliament. SAA has no records of her traveling on that day.
Correct.
Home Affairs, she claimed that Atul Gupta was in China for a state visit in 2010. Home Affairs says, we've looked at all the 4 passports. Atul Gupta was in the country. And when it comes to the cell phone records, she's claimed that she was on a telephone call with former Jacob Zuma's advisor, former then President Jacob Zuma's advisor, Lakela Kaunda. But Lakela Kaunda's cell phone records don't show that she was in conversation with Vytjie Mentor. So why does she believe that these records may have been tampered with?
Well, she's talking about the time period, and she does somewhat make a valid point. The information that she's put before the commission, that's not the first time we've heard it under oath. That's the first time, sorry, that we've heard it under oath. That's what I mean to say. She's previously talked about it from 2010, and she's had numerous Facebook posts alleging some of the stuff that she's had in her statement. So when she says that people have had time to tamper with information so that it wouldn't corroborate with the evidence, I mean, that's a valid point that should be probed further. And I say that because of the cell phone records. With Ms. Kaunda's cell phone records, those were not cell phone records provided from the service provider. Remember, some service providers don't provide information from 5 years back.
5 years back.
Yes, correct. So her query there is that if it's her personal cell phone records, that could have been tampered with. I mean, you know, Clement, that on your personal phone, with technology nowadays, you don't even need to delete an entire thread. You can delete a portion of a text message. You can clear that a phone call took place. So it's possible that those things could have happened with the information that she's talking about, but that needs to be further probed. I think that she did make a valid point there, even calling for forensic investigations to come in and look at those records.
So so obviously she's insisting and standing by her testimony, but she's also raised some concerns with how she's been treated by the Commission's legal team. She seems to argue that she was treated unfairly.
I think her defense comes from the fact that just outside of the Commission, the reaction to Vytjie Mentor's testimony has been one of scrutiny. And now we're seeing it almost fall apart because of the amount of loopholes that's starting to come up. And in Tuesday's continuation of her testimony, the issue of Dennis Bloem's statement came up, and him saying that he acknowledges that she did disclose the infamous Saxon World offer, but his period is around August 2010, not in the September-October period that she has suggested. So I think with Advocate Silo, who's leading the evidence, her point of that exercise was to assist her and say that, listen, another witness is going to come in and say this, which does not corroborate with your version of events. But she's insisting that this is the case. And she doesn't know why Dennis Bloem came to that conclusion.
I want us to perhaps also focus greatly now on some of those discrepancies. I think what was new yesterday that came out is around the Hawks official Mandla Mtolo. We understand that Mandla Mtolo went to her house and she alleges, in fact she said this last year, that Mandla Mtolo actually told her to remove the name of Jacob Zuma from the criminal statement that she was filing against the Guptas and Jacob Zuma. But the recording that was presented by the lawyer representing Mtolo has no version of that. It doesn't indicate that there was actually this assertion by this Hawks official.
But remember, the issue came up of whether the recording was recorded in totality. So it may have been, she did suggest that it may have been that the first 9 minutes of the conversation was not taped, or it was portions that have been taken out. She did say that when she received her statement back, that it had been tampered with. So it's possible that once they look at that recording and bring it back to the commission, that they can probe further and decide that if this was the total conversation that took place between Mentor and Advocate Mandla Mtolo.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So let's speak now about the credibility of her testimony entirely. I mean, do you feel that it's in question now? I mean, there was a point where Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo was asking her that you've got issues with the SAA records which contradict your testimony, the parliamentary records which contradict your testimony, issues with the Home Affairs records which contradict your testimony, issues with the cell phone records by Mrs. Kaunda which contradict your testimony. So, and asking the question that, what do you say to the question that people are asking, that why should you even consider this woman's testimony at the commission?
Listen, we're not anywhere near done with the Commission of Inquiry into State Capture. I think it's not fair to write her off at this stage. And I was having this conversation with a senior colleague of mine, Jeanette Chabalala, and we were discussing this, and we said, listen, the judgment calls that are made on the evidence that's presented before the Commission, that's for Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo to decide whether he can use this evidence to make findings. That's why he put it to her that what would be your response if someone were to say to me that, listen, you've had an issue with all of these records that have been put before the Commission. So what would you say if someone were to say that this evidence should not be accepted in order for me to make findings on state capture or alleged state capture in South Africa? And her response is simple. I've been open about this prior to this Commission of Inquiry being established. I've put this information out there prior to this. So people have had time to, correct their versions, allegedly mess with information and evidence so that it would make her look as if she was allegedly not a credible witness. So I think give her time. And also, she's the only witness that has made it this far in the Commission of Inquiry.
Yeah, she's actually the first to be cross-examined.
Yes,
also.
yes. So there's many more that are still going to have to come, and maybe we'll see more loopholes there. I wouldn't write her off as of yet right now, but in terms of those judgments of what type of witness she is, if her evidence should be accepted, that's a call that only Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo should make.
And just lastly, I mean, she may have accused the State Capture Commission's legal team of not treating her fairly, but towards the end of her testimony, in fact, at the end, she was given an opportunity to address the chairperson of the commission, Raymond Zondo, and she said she was treated fairly and she's been happy with the process.
Yes. I think after her legal team, I guess, stood up for her. And this issue of fairness only came up after the Dennis Bloom statement. And in all honesty, I don't think that was an attack on Mentor trying to discredit her. That was trying to assist her in saying that this is what is going to come up on Thursday when Dennis Bloom...
I think she was just happy that there's something that's going to
corroborate
her evidence for the first time.
And 90% of that statement matches what she's saying. The issue, which has come up a lot of times for her, was the timeline. When exactly did the disclosure take place? And with her, she seems to be very stubborn with the date that she has originally submitted to the Commission of Inquiry.
Interesting. Look, thank you so much for your time. Canny Maphanga is a journalist with News 24. A quick ad break and the morning show will continue after this.